Perfect. Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm April Rozzo, Florida Cancer Specialist Clinical Oncology Dietitian. I am going to be walking you through a stir fry today. Angie is moderating for me. Say hi, Angie.
Hi, everyone.
The computer is way too far away for me to read questions and comments. So Angie is going to be doing that for me today. If you have questions or comments, please make sure that in the Q&A box or the chat box that you are replying to everyone so that Angie is able to see them and not just me. And that way she can address them as they pop up.
And Dana did actually promote me, so I should be able to see it even if anybody fudges that.
Perfect. Thank you, Dana. So we are going to get started. We are making a spring chicken stir fry today. We're going to go ahead and get started chopping some veggies. So we're going to start with the green onions, the spring onions. We're going to use them at the very end, but I'm just going to go ahead and chop them and get them out of my way. Okay. So we're just going to do, they're kind of garnish. They are flavor, but they're also garnish. So we're just going to do small cuts all the way down. Okay. And then I'm just going to put these in a little bowl to get them off my cutting board and give me some more room so that we can get to chopping everything else. Here's the deal with a stir fry. We have a lot of chopping, prepping on the front end, but then the cooking goes really, really quickly, okay? We're gonna do garlic, 5 cloves of garlic. It sounds like a lot. I promise it's not. It is not too much. We need a lot of flavor in this stir fry, okay? So you have probably heard at some point, whether on somebody's blog, a dietitian, people at the gym, weight loss programs, you have probably heard people talk before about food prep, right? You've heard the phrase food prep. Make sure you do all that food prep ahead of time. Anyone wonder what the heck that means? What exactly you're supposed to prep ahead of time? This. So a stir fry is so great for weeknight cooking because you can do all of this chopping, all of your veggie prep ahead of time. You can do it on the weekend or whenever you have, whatever your kind of free day is, that you have time to do some of this stuff. You can chop garlic. Now I've said before with the garlic, my trick is to mince a whole lot of garlic all at once and keep it in a jar in my fridge. So I mince several cloves, several heads of garlic all together. I drizzle it with a little bit of olive oil just to keep it preserved, just to keep it fresh. And then I just keep it in my fridge so that anytime I need to cook with garlic, it's already done. So I'm chopping it here because it's a teaching kitchen. And so that, you know, we're going to do all this together. But you absolutely can keep garlic in the fridge, keep it minced. I know
April, last time I shared with you that I sometimes do chop it myself, but I also have the pre-minced jar that I get in that's in the produce section too. Perfect.
Yeah. Anything that is going to make your life easier. You can chop onions ahead of time. The broccoli slaw that we're using comes already chopped. It's already shredded in the bag, so we don't even have to do that. The ginger you can mince ahead of time, chop it ahead of time. So that's what they mean when people say food prep. That's what they're talking about. Do all of this stuff in advance, because that way, when you come home from work Wednesday night and you're wanting to cook your stir fry, you don't have to stand in the kitchen for 20 minutes, 30 minutes chopping vegetables. It's already done. All you have to do is throw everything in the skillet and cook it. And that's the quick part. That's the easy part. Okay.
So it
So
doesn't
like,
have to be that you cook all 5 meals and have them in your freezer in perfectly labeled Ziploc bags.
no.
And I think that's intimidating, right? We see those Instagram posts and think that's what food
Sure.
prep means.
Yes. I have some meals already prepared in my freezer? Absolutely. But that's because I'm Italian. And so when we cooked for an army. I don't know how to cook for one person. So if I cook soup, I cook a huge pot of soup and put portions of it in the freezer. But you don't have to do that. This can be your food prep. You plan a couple of meals that you're going to have through the week. You just chop veggies, put them in a plastic bag or a Gladware container or something like that in the fridge. And then when it's time to cook them that night, all you have to do is pull it out and throw it in the oven or in a pan, and it's ready to go. My fridge and my freezer do not look like those Instagram posts, you guys. I am not that organized.
But you do have amazing knife skills, April.
Thank you.
And by the way, with all this garlic, Mary Castellano says never enough garlic. So she's in your
Thank
camp.
you. I feel the same way, Mary. Never enough garlic, ever, ever, ever. So we're just going to put that to the side. We've got our 5 cloves. We're just going to set it aside. Okay. We're going to do some ginger. Ginger roots do not come in tiny little servings, but that's usually all you need for your ginger. So I have this big old ginger root. I'm only going to take like it would help if I cut on the cut side of the knife, you guys. I'm only going to take this little bit of the ginger. What you can do with this ginger root, wrap it really tight in some aluminum foil or some plastic wrap, put it in a Ziploc bag, throw it in the fridge. It'll keep it fresh for you so that you can keep using it. So we got to peel our ginger. You certainly can peel it if you want to. For me, it's quicker to just use the knife. So I'm just going to kind of start cutting sides here. You just want to get that thick skin off so that you get to that nice ginger root. Okay. And then we're going to mince this the same way you would an onion or the garlic that we just did. All right, I'm just going to cut it here. Make my life a little easier. And we just want to get that ginger in nice little pieces. Okay, when you cut it up like this, you get more surface area, so you get more flavor than if you used bigger slices. Plus, I like ginger as much as the next person, but a little bit goes a long way. If you leave your pieces really big, then you get a mouthful of a whole lot of ginger in one bite. We want to spread it out throughout the dish here, okay? All right, so we've got our nice chopped minced ginger. We're going to move that to the side. We're almost done prepping. The only thing left is the onion. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and heat up my skillet. I'm going to let it start warming up. Medium to medium high heat, okay? So let's chop our onion. We're going to use a whole onion, you guys. Clear my space a little bit. Cut that in half. So here's the beauty of a stir fry. We already said the cooking is super quick. So if you take the time to do that food prep in advance, the cooking itself, you're going to be amazed at how fast it goes. Like 10 minutes, if that, to cook, okay? The other beauty of a stir fry is how versatile it is. So in this recipe, I'm using broccoli slaw. I'm using chicken and broccoli slaw as my veggies. And actually, I was going to dice this, but to go with my broccoli slaw, like those shreds of broccoli, I'm going to cut this so that we have nice long ribbons of onion. Okay, it's also quicker and easier. So like I said, I'm using chicken and broccoli slaw. You can use whatever vegetables you have on hand, whatever vegetables are in season, whatever you like. This recipe would be great. I have some asparagus in the fridge I could have chopped up and put in the stir fry, mushrooms, tomatoes, bok choy. The sky is the limit. So you don't have to go grocery shopping. You can use what you have around. You don't have to use chicken. You could use some turkey. You could use ground turkey. I used chicken tenderloins and just cut them up into small pieces, into chunks. You could get chicken breasts and cut them up. You could use ground chicken or ground turkey and cook it. If you're splurging, I try not to eat beef and pork very often. We know that higher intakes of red meat are not as good for us, but that doesn't mean you can never have it. So if you decide you want to do some pork or beef in here, it'll go beautifully. So you can do any of that, whatever you and your family enjoy.
Hey, April.
Yeah.
We are getting just a tiny bit of static. I'm not sure if there's anything we can do about it or not, but I'm wondering, is your audio on your phone?
The audio is actually my Bluetooth connected to my laptop.
Okay. It's not bad. It popped into my head that if your phone mic was on, that might be picking feedback up.
It shouldn't be. I did not connect the audio on my phone.
Okay.
But it might be the distance, the wireless, the distance.
And not everybody is hearing it. So
oh, good. All right.
No, it's not distracting at all.
Good. So I've got some sesame oil, toasted sesame oil. I use regular vegetable oil, grapeseed oil, olive oil. You can do that. To me, the sesame oil for this particular stir fry adds a whole lot of extra flavor. So you don't have to go out and buy sesame oil, but man, I recommend it. It really just adds to the flavor.
It's a really great flavor and it keeps well,
Yeah. So we've got a tablespoon of the oil in our nice hot skillet, okay? We're gonna add all these onions in. Okay. Toss them all in there. Not the green onions. Hold off on those green onions. We're saving those for later. But we want to let these onions, the white onions, take a little bit more time to cook. We want to get them nice and soft. So we're starting there. I've also seen recipes where at the beginning, they throw everything in, all the fragrant stuff, the onions, the garlic, the ginger. And here's what I have learned. Ginger and garlic burn really easily. So when I put them in at the beginning, while the onions are cooking, by the time I'm ready to throw other stuff in, by the time I'm ready to do the chicken and the onion is cooked, my garlic is burnt. So I'm holding off on all that stuff that cooks really quickly, that burns really easily. And we're just going to do this one step at a time.
I do exactly the same thing, April. And do you ever make like the little nest for your garlic, like once the onions have softened up a little bit?
I haven't. Tell me more about these little nests.
I don't leave it that way, but once the onions have kind of softened up, I kind of push them to one side to make like a little carpet more than a nest. And then I put the garlic and ginger on there and kind of let it cook for a second before I stir it all together so that it hits the warm onions instead of the surface of the pan.
Look at you, smarty pants. I'm learning something new
I probably learned that on a cooking show.
Look, there's always room for us to learn something new. Always, always, always. So the sesame oil, not only is it adding flavor and it's adding kind of a nutty toasted flavor with that sesame oil, it's also giving the onions some color. So the onions are going to soften and kind of go translucent, but they get a little color from that dark sesame oil also. To me, it just makes them look even more inviting, even more delicious. Okay, so those are starting to soften up. We're gonna add our chicken and get that starting to cook. I've got my chicken and my broccoli slaw behind me here. And like I said, the chicken I had already cubed ahead of time. I had some chicken tenderloins that I just cut into little cubes, into little pieces.
So those were the strips, not the full chicken breast?
Exactly.
Yeah, the ones that are kind of like an inch across. And
yeah, so you could do chicken breast and then just cut them into strips
cut it more,
and
yeah.
cube them. Yeah, it just takes a little bit more cutting. All right, we got to use, don't be afraid of some salt, okay? The danger of salt in our culture, in our eating habits, is fast food, restaurant cooking, the processed boxed canned stuff that already has all that salt added in. The little bit of salt that you add while you're cooking to give it flavor is not where the high salt comes from in our diets most of the time. So it's okay to use it. It's okay to give your food some flavor with that, okay? Let's give this a little toss.
And also, I think if you add it during cooking, the heat carries it and less goes farther versus
Right.
if you try to cook without any at all and get it to the table,
And
you
then
find
you have to
yourself
add a
adding
bunch
more.
in because then it tastes bland. You know, people complain that healthy food doesn't have any flavor, that healthy food tastes bland. And that's probably because there wasn't any salt or seasoning. Others, it doesn't have to just be salt. That's why we have garlic and ginger. We've got some red pepper flakes in there. So we're not just relying on salt, but salt serves a purpose in flavoring your food. I'm also going to add some pepper while this is browning. It's to taste, you guys. Some people like a lot of pepper, some people don't. I would start with maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon, and you can always add more, 1/4 to 1/2 a teaspoon, and you can add more if you want to. My mom taught me to cook by smell. If it smells good, it was probably going to taste good. And that sesame oil smells really good right now. Okay. All right.
I'm looking at that thinking that's got to smell really good, right? And then you haven't even added the garlic yet.
And I'm about to right now. We're gonna, before we add the broccoli slaw, we're gonna go ahead and add all this garlic and ginger so that that can start cooking. And I really like the broccoli slaw in this recipe for several different reasons. One, it's so easy. You open the package, you dump it in the skillet. It's already shredded, it's ready to go. So I love that it saves me some time. But broccoli is a cruciferous vegetable, just like cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage. And those cruciferous vegetables have been shown to have some cancer prevention properties. They're really high in folate, vitamin C, and those vegetables have a lot of fiber in them. They help you stay full longer. They're low calorie. They're just really, really good for you. Now I'm smelling that garlic and ginger. We're gonna add the broccoli slaw, dump this whole package in. I told you, I don't know how to cook for one person. You could cook less than this. I plan to eat it all week as leftovers, okay? So I'm cooking the whole thing. And just give it a good toss. Now this is gonna cook for anywhere from like 3 to 5 minutes, and just until the broccoli is softened, okay? And while that is cooking, we got it nice and stirred up. So while that is cooking, we got to work on our sauce. So we've got some water. We're going to mix that with soy sauce. Okay. I use low sodium soy sauce because I'm already putting salt in myself. I don't need a whole bunch of extra salt from these products. Honey. And the honey is just to give it a little bit of sweetness, just a little touch of sweetness. Okay, that's sweet and salty. And then cornstarch, which is going to help thicken it a little bit. All right. All right. I forgot my whisk, so we're improvising here. And just give that a little stir to get the honey and the cornstarch mixed in. And before we pour it in, we're going to stir it again because sometimes that cornstarch and even the honey will settle to the bottom. Okay. So we'll come back to that. And give your veggies and chicken a little stir. We want to make sure everything gets cooked evenly. I'm also going to throw in those red pepper flakes that we mentioned, just a 1/4 teaspoon. And again, to taste, if you like your food spicier, you certainly could add more red pepper. You could add some sriracha hot sauce. The original recipe for this that I sort of started with and then altered used a lot of ground ginger instead of fresh ginger. And it also used bell pepper for the spice, for the flavor.
And April, we have a question about the sauce, about the amounts for the sauce, how much to use of the components and of the sauce.
Absolutely. It's a 1/2 cup of water, a couple tablespoons, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1.5 teaspoons of honey, and I think a tablespoon of cornstarch. It's in the recipe right here. Yeah, tablespoon of cornstarch. Okay, and I'm sorry guys, I didn't go through all the amounts because you can download the recipe, but that's what it is. 1/2 cup of water, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1.5 teaspoons of honey, and then a tablespoon of cornstarch. This is just about done. The broccoli is softening. So I'm going to add this sauce in. I'm going to give it a little stir here. Make sure we get all the components. Okay. Pour that in. And we're only going to cook it long enough now to let that sauce, let that cornstarch stick in the sauce. And it takes a minute, maybe. It's already thickening. Okay. I'm going to toss in my green onions. And that's it. We're done. We have lunch, you guys. I'm going to turn this off. Now, serving, you can serve this. Typically, a stir fry would be served over rice. I would probably choose some brown rice or some bulgur wheat, some couscous, one of those whole grains that gives you more nutrients, more fiber for your bargain, for your calories and everything. But you could also use cauliflower rice. You could do a super low calorie, low carbohydrate, get an extra serving of those cruciferous vegetables by doing the cauliflower rice. And it would still be a super filling meal because of all that fiber that you're getting. So this is it. Dinner, lunch, dinner, whatever is served. What questions can I answer or comments?
Folks are saying, looks tremendous, yummy. Thanks for another yummy dinner idea.
Fantastic.
And you know, I am just going to make a quick pitch again that for folks to get that sesame oil because I was double checking and it is, you know, kind of a similar fat healthiness to your canola oil and olive oil. It's like 20% of its fat is saturated. The other 80% is polyunsaturated and monounsaturated. And it's got a higher smoke point than olive oil and a little bit higher than canola. So it's pretty easy to cook with too.
It's great for a stir fry.
Mm-hmm. And really just that extra punch of flavor. And like you were saying, you added a little bit of salt, but you've got all
Mm,
these other components that
yeah,
enhance the flavor and let you limit how much salt or soy sauce for that matter that you
because
need
we're
to
adding
add.
more flavor
Mhm.
this way. Yeah. hmm
And
So I
someone does
agree.
ask if they can use olive oil.
You can. I've used, and again, olive oil, like Angie mentioned, olive oil doesn't have as high of a smoke point, but we're not cooking that high. We're not frying. We don't need the high smoke point. Like you can certainly use olive oil for a stir fry. Um, I did this recipe, the original recipe, as is with, I think it was either olive oil or vegetable oil, and not the sesame oil. And it was so bland, it just fell really flat. And the sesame oil just added so much flavor.
And
So,
there's a
yeah,
question about the sesame oil, which I should have looked at the answer myself, whether you have to refrigerate it.
I don't. This
I
sits in
don't
my
refrigerate
pantry.
mine.
Mm-mm. I have another bottle in the pantry because I'm almost out.
Super.
Yeah.
I think if I were going to sub, I would use canola oil because to me, olive oil adds like its own flavor
It
that
does.
would clash to me in a stir fry. But if people like it, and like you
hmm
said, you're not cooking it on a super high heat anyway.
And I use grapeseed oil a lot if I don't want the flavor from the olive oil or from another oil.
Oh,
I learned on a cooking show that the grapeseed oil has a higher smoke point and is a good alternative for some of these things. So I do have olive oil. I try to use it as much as possible. I use olive oil when I'm roasting vegetables. But a lot of times for the skillet, I use grapeseed oil. And again, I tried that and it just didn't have enough flavor. I don't want to give you bland food. So if at all possible, get the sesame oil. It's worth the buy.
we should now buy stock in sesame oil so that we get dividends from our promotion.
Right? I don't get paid for this promotion, you guys. I just really like sesame oil. Any other questions, comments? We did that whole thing in a half an hour. All the chopping, the prepping, the cooking in a half an hour.
Yes,
It'll
and
go
to your
even,
point, sorry, to your point about meal prep, if you're chopping these things for your stir fry, you can also chop some onions or bell peppers at the same time for, pasta or whatever later on in the week, like a different
yeah.
meal or
Chop all your
salads.
veggies ahead of time. It makes the cooking so much quicker and easier, especially for me, I do a lot of cooking on the weekend. I eat leftovers, but you got a big family to feed. You're cooking multiple meals through the week. Do this chopping ahead of time, put it in the fridge, and the cooking will be so much faster.
Or if you're disorganized like me, buy the pre-chopped.
Buy the pre-chopped, absolutely. You can get zucchini noodles, like already spiraled zucchini noodles. Um, the last cooking demo that we did with the butternut squash, there I learned the hard way that it is not worth breaking down a butternut squash. Buy it pre-chopped and peeled. Save yourself that time. Um, Same with the broccoli slaw. Open a bag and throw it in. It's already done. I didn't have to stand here and break down a head of broccoli.
Yeah.
So
Or get your food processor dirty or whatever.
exactly, exactly.
Folks are saying, thanks, great job, love it.
Thanks,
People are
guys.
buying sesame oil.
Buy some sesame oil. Stay tuned. I will do a little teaser and then we'll kind of log off. Next month is not a teaching kitchen. Next month is going to be a lunch and learn webinar on natural remedies, fact or fiction. We'll talk about some of the more popular ones. And then in June, we will do another teaching kitchen. And we're going to do some Greek turkey burgers to get ready for summer cookouts. Okay. And Angie's going to be helping me with that one also.
Yes, maybe I'll cook along.
Okay, but if you cook along, you can't
No, I
read the chat
can't.
box
You're
for
right.
me.
No.
So,
All right, I'm off the hook for cooking then.
there you go. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. And I will see you next month.
Thanks, April.